What's up, you guys? Hey, it is week number 13 or so of the Chaz Way podcast. Thanks so much for joining us this week. As always, we appreciate you guys so much. So grateful. Joined by another awesome person this week. This is Frank Sell. Frank Sell is from Kansas, Hutchinson, Kansas, to be specific. And let me tell you how I know this guy. So first of all, you guys remember maybe several weeks ago, I think week number 5, we talked to Jack Brassfield. Jack Brassfield has the Moto Live podcast. And Jack is like the branding guru. Like when it comes to on a like middle of the road level of branding, like not this big, huge corporate guy, Jack is the guy that like makes sure he's always branded. And so anyways, the Moto Live podcast is super awesome. But one of the things that Jack does, not only is he always branded with his podcast stuff, but he's also got some really killer, awesome sponsors. And so he's always talking about this coffee, this really awesome drink called Get Shit Done. Right. And so it's got a cool, catchy name. Of course, I noticed the name right away. But he talked so highly of it, and Jackson, his son, and everybody that's in like the Brassfield camp would talk really highly of it. And so that's how I first heard of Frank and his company. And so that piqued my interest. And then, dude, I just see you around all the time. Like I was thinking about this earlier today. I'm like, you know what's cool about this guy is like he gets it. Like you build content, you're commenting on things, you're all over social media, you're liking, you're posting, you're sharing, you're connecting. Like you're doing the deal. That is what I personally believe is like if somebody who wants to grow, you're doing the deal. So I'm excited for your company. I'm excited for you to talk about your company, but I'm also really excited to know like who this guy is, not just as Get Shit Done Coffee, but as Frank Sell, like who you are, where you come from, and what that looks like as well. So anyways, just introduce yourself, and then let's start with like, where are you from, and how did you become who you are today?
Oh man, that's a loaded question, brother.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I guess first and foremost, I'm Frank Sell, soon to be husband to my beautiful fiance, and father to my children. And beyond that, I really live by the example of my children and the folks around me. They'll what I do speak so loudly they don't really hear what I care what I say. So I try to live by example of intentional growth, and going through a process of being the best Frank Sell ever. And that's a pretty tall feat because there's 3 of us living right now in my family. So unlike most people, I actually have competition to be the best Frank Sell.
Wow. Okay. Talk about that for just a second. So you're like, what level of Frank Sell are you?
My dad and I were talking about this. So I'm actually Frank Sell the 4th, and my son is Frank Sell the 5th.
Wow.
And so a pretty cool story about that, trying to be an intentional parent and being present. One day, my son, he got in trouble at school. He stole something, and instead of just scolding him, my whole mindset and premise is to help my children and people around me develop a process I call "Who's Thinking Are You Thinking?" and help them understand this. So I asked my son if somebody says that, ask him, I said, what's your name? And he said, Frank Sell. And what's Papa's name? And he's, well, Papa. I said, no, what's his name? He's like, well, it's Frank Sell. And I said, okay, my name is Frank Sell. He's like, yeah. So if somebody says Frank Sell's a thief, then who are they talking about? You, me, or Papa? And it just, man, it hit him like that. The gravity of of a legacy and who you actually are and how you show up in life.
Oh, that's so good. So powerful. And what a lesson that he can take forever. That's what a learning opportunity, you took advantage of. That's awesome. Okay. So carry on. So carry on about who you are in your life. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted you on that.
Yeah, no worries. So like for the purpose of this podcast, a couple things. So like the business wise, you talk about the Get Shit Done Coffee. So I follow the traditional path that most of us grew up back in the 1900s. My parents, my father, I know they love me, but they told me the path of try to get good grades so I could get a higher education. And I knew that wasn't going to work for me. So the next best thing was to learn a trade. And so I learned I picked welding because I knew that I could always be employed. I could always make a decent wage. So the next step was to find a company that you could work for 30 years, 40 years and get that, that pension retirement. And so I did that. The last job I had, I started when I was 18. So that, holy crap, it's almost 30 years. Yeah, it's almost 30 years ago now. I'm 47.
Wow.
I was 18 when I started that job, and I was going to retire at 48 with a full benefits, pension, all this stuff. But about 5 or 6 years in, they changed the deal. They sold the company and they changed the retirement package to where I'd have to work until I was at least 55.
Mm.
And it's at that point when I had that epiphany, my rose colored glasses were kind of broken, that this dream that I was sold, or this path that I was sold, it was broken. It doesn't work anymore. And so the next thing was I knew my hands were smart. I knew I wasn't afraid of hard work. And I knew some guys that were doing what's called paintless dent repair. So fixing hail damage on cars. And it's a manual trade. You work with your hands, and I thought, man, it's just working with your hands. So I can do that. So I bought $100 VHS tape to learn how, and had some used tools, and I taught myself how. And in 2003, I volunteered for a layoff and I quit my job. And just like on every can of our coffee, I just beat the damn street so hard, I swear I get a bill for the potholes.
Wow. Wow. And so what was that like? Was it scary? Like, first of all, you had faith, that's the first thing that comes to mind,
Yeah.
is like you had
Mhm.
faith to just go out and do it, which I'm a huge believer in. I just believe that when you are willing to trust and let go, I think crazy, amazing, huge things can happen. And clearly that happened for you. But what was that like when you decided to trust and have faith? What did that look like? I mean, do you feel like you were provided for right away, or were there really challenging times through that?
Yeah, that was a what I call, just a refining process. Because at that phase of my life, my mid late 20s, I was full of piss and vinegar, and proud. So yeah, I looked at it at that time, like, look at me and look at what I've done. But like you're saying, uh, basically, God is my supply is abundant. I didn't create the storms that created the hail damage and all these different scenarios, but at the end of the day, I took action on the supply. So the first, when I first decided to do it, I simply had the mindset, hey, I have a trade that I can always go back to and earn a living. So why not try this now? And so in the beginning, it was, um, like the book Wild at Heart says, we're built for three things, an adventure to go on, a battle to win, and somebody to rescue, or a beauty to rescue. So the adventure and the battle was what I was all about at the time, of going out and just hustling and finding the work and business and just scrapping whatever it took, to get shit done and make it
Mm.
happen.
Wow, that's incredible. And it worked. And that's awesome. So that's 2003. So you've been at it for a while, and you've always been self-employed?
Since 2003, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, since the start of that journey. That's crazy. Okay, so let's shift gears over to, where did this whole thing with the Get Shit Done coffee come about? How long has that been around? Where did that stem from?
That's a long path to kind of put it all together. Uh, so kind of like what we were talking before we got on the podcast, the video here, I've done some network marketing stuff. So the um, personal growth part of that really helped develop, me and my mindset. And as I matured, I'll say as I'm maturing through manhood and so on, if I call myself a husband or a father, a leader in these different things in my family, that it's kind of irresponsible of me to have all of our lifestyle dependent upon my ability to work. So I got into network marketing and some different things to try and build that residual or passive income. But what that really did was that really grew me personally and prepared me for these next couple steps of life. So uh, me and some guys, we started a Facebook page called Home of the Hustle. Actually, I started it, and I recruited some guys that we were like-minded. We wanted to grow. We wanted to network. And so I started this page, and me and some buddies were, 5 nights a week, we would do a live video broadcast, kind of like we're doing now, interviewing people, because we knew that if we had, there was information that was missing in our next step. So we would go out and find people to share a story, just like we're doing, that had the results in the areas that we wanted, whether it was e-commerce or branding or speaking, coaching, whatever. And so we started interviewing these people, and what that naturally did that we weren't aware of was it also built our social media status. along with that. So I came across, I started buying different domains, just like you can buy domains, and you can buy those as kind of like an investment. And so I was looking at that time, beards were starting to be really popular. And there was I think, the Dollar Beard Club. And I just thought it was a bunch of just fake machismo bullshit. Grow a beard, wear a flannel sweater, and you're a man. And so, to me, that's got nothing to do with manhood. So I thought, what is the opposite of that? And it was Baby Beard Club. And so I went out, I bought the domain, and I just had this thing sitting there for 6 months or a year. And then I started to grow my beard. And my partner at the time, she made me some beard oil. And the first time I used it, I slept really good. And I asked what happened. And she said, well, it's probably the essential oils in the beard oil. I said, well, what else will they do? And she's, well, you can do weight loss or appetite control or sleep or better mood, whatever. And so I looked at the landscape of beard oils and marketing and so on. And I noticed that nobody was leveraging the therapeutic effects of essential oils in beard oils. So we came up with babybeardclub.com. And there's a line of beard oils that will either help you sleep, help you relax, help you focus. And in particular for this story, the one beard oil that helps you focus was called Get Shit Done. And so we had this product line. And like you said, I'm in central Kansas, over in Wichita, Kansas. There was these guys, they have a coffee company that they're what they call a contract canning company. So they can for name brand companies that you would know on store shelves. Every street you drive, in a big town you drive on, there's one of these coffee places. They can that stuff over there. Well, they somehow we got connected, and they liked my messaging and branding with the beard oil. I liked coffee. So we just started buying products for personal use from each other. And I sold them some of the Get Shit Done beard oil. And I bought coffee beans just to grind for my personal use. I didn't have a brand yet or anything. We had Home of the Hustle Facebook page. I had bought homeofthehustle.com, but I did not have a website yet. So for those of you who don't know, you can buy a domain, but then you have to build a website on to connect to that domain. That's just like buying a piece of land, and then you got to put a building on it. So that's kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I had homeofthehustle.com. I was on an interview kind of like this in 2020 with a guy that I really respect. He's a very, very well established Amazon seller. And he asked me to come on and tell my $100 videotape story. And I could see how his face lit up. And it kind of dawned on me that was the use for the Home of the Hustle and my story and so on. So what happened is I bought some coffee from these guys, and I had say a bag of coffee. On the podcast you can't see this. I don't know if it's going to be on video anywhere.
Yes,
but okay, so go find the video and you'll see like just a bag of coffee, and I had Get Shit Done stickers made up to give away with the beard oil. I put that, just our generic sticker, on a bag of coffee and put it on Facebook, and all my friends, they knew me from friends and followers, they knew us from Home of the Hustle, and they asked, is that really Get Shit Done coffee? How do I buy it? I said, well, hold on. So I put that picture on the Baby Beard Club website, put the link on Facebook, and said, here you go buy it. And people just tore it up. And so I called the guys at the coffee company and said, hey, I have a bunch of people wanting to buy your coffee as Get Shit Done. And they said, no problem, brother. We'll just wholesale you the coffee. And it's a process called private label, where I don't have to own the machinery or the equipment or anything else. I own the brand and the message, and I leverage somebody else's product to build that brand with.
And that's how it began, and that's where it is right now to this day.
Yeah, that's how it began. So then I was on that podcast, that interview, and I realized the connection for the coffee and the hustle. So I have a virtual assistant over in the Philippines. I was talking to her about this, and she was so excited. She built the whole website for me on a Shopify platform over the weekend. And so we started selling some coffee, and then, in conversation, we all have those conversations like, wouldn't it be cool if? So I was talking to the guys at the coffee manufacturing facility. I say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had an actual can of Get Shit Done coffee? Like, I could visualize it. And they're like, yeah, that'd be really cool. We have something that you can probably use to build your brand with. So there's a couple things It's like if I would have a formula that I would own myself, nobody else could use it, that would cost me about $30,000 just for the formula before they ever filled a can of coffee. Or they said I could just use their formula to build my brand with, kind of like a license. I license their flavor.
Sure.
And so that's where this coffee right here, the Get Shit Done Nitro Latte, in September of 2020, they were going to do a production run for their product. And they told me, said, hey, if you want to do a pallet of Get Shit Done coffee, go ahead and get your labels made and you can do a pallet along with ours. So we kind of like a partnership or so on. We did that. So there's about 2,300 cans on a pallet, and it started selling really quick because I do a lot of promotion. I promote myself a lot through social media and what we're doing, the hustle, really just kind of selling inspiration. And we did that. And so I wound up, I had to buy another 600 cans that they had left over. And I sold 3,000 cans in 5 weeks and I ran out.
Wow. Dude, that's so awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty unbelievable. It's a big learning moment too.
That's late in 2020.
Yes.
And so how much of that was online presence versus local? Was that virtually all like with an online presence?
It was probably good 80 to 90% online. It was about that time that my kids and I got back into racing motocross. I had quit racing motocross in 2003 when my daughter was going to be born. I found out she was going to be born in that year, and then I started the hail damage business. At the time, I just started racing the A class locally. So if you don't know, it's like kind of like a local professional class. And I just kind of started getting in my head, like, man, I'm really moving. If I crash going this fast, I'm going to be hurt. So I decided just to hang it up. And then my kids are teenagers now. I have a son and a daughter. In 2020, actually in 2020, I got a divorce. There's a lot of things that just kind of it was just a whole new fresh scene. So then in 2020, the kids and I got back into racing, and I would go to the races. I'd have a 10 by 10 canopy set up, and we would just sell some coffee at the races and wherever. So that attention, the people that I know around town from being in business for so long, they started saying, hey, we would like to sell your product. How do we get your product? And so then I started learning about the wholesale side and the retail side of the business.
Wow. Did you have a business background? I mean, obviously you've owned your own business with the paintless dent repair since 2003. Prior to that, you're in business as an employee, right? But when you took on this project, even from slapping a sticker on, well, I mean, I guess you had the beard stuff, right? But like, did you have experience in ownership? I mean, I feel like there's a lot to learn. Did you have a background in that, or did you learn as you went?
Yes.
All the above. All the above.
Yeah, my dad was self-employed my whole life.
Cool.
Pretty much, so I wasn't privy or shown like a lot of the details, but at the end of the day, like I asked my son here a couple of years ago, it's like, so what is one thing that you have learned from me as as a father? And he's just like, no matter what, we figure it out. So that's kind of something that I learned in the process, and kind of an approach that I take to business and ideas and so on is it's just really simple. Is that somebody giving me money for my product or service is the number one validation that I need. I see so many people get just procrastination. I need this, I need that. No, you just need to get somebody, get a viable product, get a viable service, and find somebody willing to trade you money. That's the validation that you need. So then you can start fine tuning from there and getting all the other stuff lined up, and you'll figure out what you need along the way. Just don't just focus on the next step.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's awesome. So do you feel like you've really grown As you've have figured things out along the way? Do you feel like since you've really taken off at the end of 2020, do you feel like you've grown a ton in your in business and in what you've learned as you've kind of exploded, if you will?
Yeah, it kind of ties into what you were saying about, I walked on faith in the beginning because I didn't have that divine faith, that connection back then in 2003. So it's 2013 when I came to Christ. And then it was a whole Saul of Tarsus, man. I just cracked her with the head. It just a whole new man. But it took years of intentional focus and work to grow to where I'm at now.
Hmm.
And so through that process, I goes to that saying. It comes from a book called Dollars Want Me, but the God is my supply and my supply is abundant. So I just look at the process now, that God has already created everything that you, me, anybody that's watching or listening to this, that you want. Everything's already created. The creation process we do not have to worry about, except the you or me that qualifies for that. The you or me that shows up in the world and provides value to get what we want. So, I look at everything. It's like all the distribution channels, they're already out there. All the store shelves are already out there. All the
Mm.
people that drink coffee are already out there. So it's just up to me just to keep showing up and sharing my message, and then try to do my best to pay attention. What is my opportunity to grab the
Mhm.
best opportunities for my business and for my family.
That's really well said. I think that's awesome. And I hope that people will take some mental notes of that, because that is so incredibly true. And we could have a whole conversation about that, but that is, at the end of the day, that's totally true. I say all the time, we're created with purpose on purpose.
Mhm.
And that's just kind of a different way of saying something very similar. And the reality is, we all, we have an amazing, huge, phenomenal things that we can be a part of if we choose to do and be a part of them. And that's exactly the same thing is what you're saying. The shelves are there, the opportunities there, the abundance is there. It's your choice to go fulfill your opportunity, and be on those shelves, or to be in those places, or to fill your bank account, or to provide for your family, because the tools are there, the
Mhm.
instruments are there. So that's awesome, man. So okay, that kind of explains how you got into the dirt bike stuff. So you're obviously enjoy motocross, you have a background in racing. How do you get connected with the Brassfields? Have you always known Jack Brassfield?
Now, just being very intentional on social media, whether it's Instagram or Facebook. So with Home of the Hustle, that taught me, to be intentional with who I go send a friend request to, because most of us, we feel from the victim mindset that, Facebook is always feeding us garbage, or Instagram is feeding us garbage. But if you're intentional and pay attention, then you can go out and either like friend request or join groups or find people that are in networking or business or investors or like marketers or e-commerce, like selling stuff online. So when I started Home of the Hustle Instagram page, I kind of did the same thing, and I watch who Instagram promotes to me to follow or connect with, and so I would just pick and choose who I'm connecting with. And then it's kind of like the Gary V book, was it jab, 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 right hook. So it's just, I just have conversations with so many people. It might be months before I ever have an ask or say, hey, if I, do you like coffee? Number one, hey, if I sent you a couple cans of coffee, would you mind promoting it? And then they go back, obviously they probably go back to my feed and they see that I'm into motocross or business or hustling, and they're just like, yeah, man, we'd love to do that. So that's where the Brassfield connection, I'm sure that's where it come from.
Mm, that's awesome. It's just really quick, just because you never know who's going to listen to this. So business minded people, especially if you utilize social media, um, one of the, or even people that aren't business minded, you said something interesting about how people talk about, like, I don't know the words you use, but it's people like there's so much junk on social media, or Facebook or wherever, let's just call it social media. The reality is, like, first of all, you don't have to like, see, or have the junk. It's your page. So it's like I unfollow people often, and I'm not turning this negative. Like, I'm using this as a teaching tool. Like, if there's negative stuff on your, like the algorithm and trends are going to trend towards what you're willing to accept in your life. It's just like if you walk outside and have a conversation with somebody that feeds negativity into your life, you have a choice whether or not you want to receive that negative energy. It's the same thing on your social media. Like, if you're going to play into negative or into junk or into BS or crap, like, that is 100% your choice. You can unfollow people. I don't unfriend people because I still think they need to see my stuff. I used to unfriend people, and then I'm like, well, I'm doing a disservice to them, so now I just unfollow, because if whether it makes me, some things make me jealous. Sometimes I unfollow people because if I see something, sometimes it makes me a little bit envious of what they have, if I'm being honest. And if it puts me in a space that makes me envious, like, that's not a good feeling for me. So it's worth it to me to just dismiss that. It doesn't make them a bad person, right? But maybe it's, I personally, I'm not into politics, so, like, I don't want to see everybody's politics, or maybe it's they're just super have a negative, like, maybe they're complaining about baby daddy, or they're complaining about this and that. So I just choose to unfollow. So, point simply being, you talk about kind of what you start to see, and you're strategic and you're smart. You do that, like that. People should absolutely do that, because you can you could completely set a template of the greatest social media presence in front of you that you want. It is completely up to you. If you want to see awesome things and fun butterflies and rainbows every day on your Instagram feed, that is 100% based on the choices that what you want to click on, what you want to like, what you want to follow, what you want to accept. We are ultimately responsible for that. And in your case, just to spin it full circle, that is what has been beneficial for you in business and probably in personal as well, because then that is what you're seeing. I mean, then, for me, I'm into motocross, I'm in entrepreneurship, I'm into positive vibes, right? And so that's what I choose to see and choose to be around. And then guess what? That's when I get to see things like your page, or your contacts, or your comments, or your posts, or obviously moto stuff that really fills my cup, or a lot of entrepreneur stuff that really truly fires me up every day, and so it doesn't have to be those things. I mean, for the listener on the other side, it may be none of the things that we're talking about, but whatever it is that fills your cup, those are the things that you should put your energy into, for sure. And if it's strategic for business mindset, I think what you're saying is great. So whatever it is for somebody that might be trying to grow in whatever area that is, that's a great, like, nugget for them, is to do what you're talking about, which is just strategically pick and choose where your energy and your focus go on socials, particularly in this case, because then you can build the relationships with the people you choose, for sure.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. So tell me about, like, what I've seen lately, or at least I feel like when I watch your page on Instagram, which I'll make sure that I put as much of your contact info and all of your social stuff, I'll make sure I include in the descriptions all over the place. But also, I feel like you're going into, like, more brick and mortar locations with your cans of get shit done. And it sounds like that's because you're knocking on doors and you're building relationships. What is that looking like? I mean, are you, like, do you feel like your distribution is really capitalizing? Do you feel like you're in a lot of locations now, physical locations?
Especially for where our geographic location. So like we talked about, I mean, my hometown pretty much is Hutchinson, Kansas, about 40,000 people. Probably a decent income is between 15, maybe $20 an hour. So I feel like, we're very strong, but what I take from that also is that's my learning process. So part of it is just from years of business and paying attention, that we trying to build the brand before before things blow up. And there was a book that I read called Ramping Your Brand. And it basically explained the same thing, where, a lot of brands, a lot of people want to go out and just hit it and blow up, but they don't have the infrastructure or the understanding or the people behind them. When that happens, there's a company, Death Wish Coffee is a great example. They went on TV on the East Coast, and they blew up, had like 30,000 orders, but they couldn't fulfill them. So then they had a whole bunch of mad people and so on. So I've been methodically taking my time of building this brand so that, a lot of people, they really assume that like we're this legitimate, big, well-funded, put together brand when it's run out of this, I don't know, 80 square foot office here in our home. And I have a couple of shelves over here with I can fit a pallet of coffee in my office up here. I pack it, I ship it, I grind it, everything right here in our little office. But what I've been doing is just paying attention to what some of the bigger players do. I go follow their pages like Bang Energy, these different people, and I was like, well, that's possible. Somebody's already done it. And so I just try to pay attention to what's already been done and what the opportunities are within our network. So to your question, I get messages quite regular now from other retailers, and it's not even like, it's weird because like you would put a judgment on it that maybe convenience stores or grocery stores. But man, it's crazy. Like I get barbecue joints, I get like cupcake shops, I get all kinds of people sending me messages about wanting to carry our product because they see it all around on social media, or somebody has came in and they asked for the product. And so because of all that, and then the people that I have intentionally connected with on social media, and some of those people are investors or people that are brokers. I was on a Zoom call this morning, and these guys were talking about 100 $200 million deals, like it was, like it's $20 or $100. It's just, it was crazy. So there's just levels to it. And it's like, it goes back to what we talked about before. Like, how do I need to show up in this existence to qualify or to be involved in those things or to attract those things into my life? So now those things are starting to come my way, of people saying, hey man, I love what you're doing, I love your brand, I love what you stand for. How can I help you go big, or how can I help you in whatever that process may be?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So do you feel like, so whenever you're getting people like inbound calls and inquiries, are you able to fulfill some of those things? Like when you get the cupcake shop or the barbecue joint, are you able to fulfill those and put product in those places, or is it, kind of a waiting game for some of those things? Are you able to fulfill those?
Yeah. As soon as they send me some money, I'll send them some coffee.
Yeah,
It's
great. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've learned the process of a price, and margins and stuff that makes it doable for them and doable for me. And they're happy to sell the product, and I'm happy to sell it. So it works out pretty good.
Very cool. That's awesome. So let's I definitely don't want this entire episode to be about the coffee,
Mhm.
but I do think it's important that we talk about it. First of all, there's a story in it which we've already discussed a lot of, but let's give some focus on Get Shit Done Coffee for a second. Like, let's actually talk about the star of the coffee, and that is the coffee. So
Mhm.
walk me through it. Are there several flavors? What makes it a great coffee? The name is obviously incredible. Is it wonderful? Do you love it? Why do you love it? There's about 5 questions for you. Start with number 1.
Okay, so we'll start at the beginning. And so what I did is I took a roadmap that already kind of it worked for me with the essential oils and beard oil. And so one of they call it USP, the unique selling proposition of the beard oil, was leveraging the therapeutic effect of the essential oils. And so in the beginning part of all this, I asked the guys that I buy my coffee from, has anybody ever infused essential oils in coffee? And they're like, no, we've never heard of that. So you started working on a process to actually the original. That's why this coffee is called Essential Brew. Our original grind or original beans it has orange and peppermint essential oils infused with the chocolate salty caramel pepper roast of the coffee. So you kind of smell the orange and peppermint while you taste the coffee, and it's just, man, it's the smoothest. I have people that don't drink coffee that will just drink this black because it's
Mm.
just smooth and tasty. Um, and so then the next thing was when I bought. I'm going to show you a couple things here. So if you're listening to this, you're going to have to go to video and watch this. So this here was kind of a test sample for the canned coffee. You see what it is on the backside here? This is just a can of their coffee that I put one of the coffee labels off of our bagged coffee on,
Okay.
like so I could promote this. And like on camera, you can't really tell the difference between this canned coffee with just a sticker that's chopped up.
Right.
And so I was marketing and branding this before I ever had a coffee can
Okay.
of ours. But I don't drink this stuff. This particular coffee here, because this is not what we sell. This is a black coffee. And in the beginning, it wasn't even on my radar to do a canned coffee because this particular coffee, like it's more bitter than what I like. So then through the process, they said, hey, we have this other flavor that's got coconut cream. It's got a little more flavor, a little chocolate flavor. And so I drank that. And I said, I will drink that so I can sell that. And so that's where Get Shit Done Coffee comes in. So if we're going down to the details side of the coffee, so it's kind of like the way I explain to people. The first thing I notice is that they buy a can for the brand, like what you're saying, because it says Get Shit Done on a can. And then they buy a case for the taste, because it tastes kind of like if you had made like the old school Hershey's chocolate milk out of the tin can, but you use coconut milk instead of regular milk, and then poured that into your coffee. So that's what this tastes like in a can.
Wow.
It's a really smooth, flavorful. It's not over powerful coconut, chocolate, or coffee, either one. It's just a really easy to drink nitro brew coffee.
Awesome. So does that leave us at one flavor?
Yes, for now it's
Cool.
just one flavor. That's part of e-commerce and brand building. You don't want to give people 10, 20 options, or even 5 options. You want one thing, get one thing working, understand the one thing, understand how to explain it, and then go from there.
Yeah, I love that. I'm personally a huge fan, and I think some things. I think it's not a great option to always have tons of choices. That's my personal opinion. So I personally love that idea. That's cool. And I mean, in your case, branding is a huge part of it. Like that's one, like it isn't just a coffee. It is a very cool brand. And I love the whole slogan, like, the can for the brand, and then the case for the taste. That's so slick, dude. I love it. And your explanation is awesome. It sounds really, really good tasting. It just sounds like it tastes very good. So I'm excited to try it. I think that's super cool. So let's talk about a couple of places that people can find the product. And again, this will all be listed in the descriptions, but for the sake of hearing it as well, first things first, if somebody wanted to go, could somebody order by bulk? Like, could somebody order a case of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where would they do that?
Our website is homeofthehustle.com.
Okay.
And that'll get you to all the coffee stuff, and that'll connect you to our Facebook and Instagram.
Perfect. So for one landing, that's a great place, homeofthehustle.com. And then of course you'll see all of the socials there as well for Frank. And we'll tag all that stuff as well. But that's awesome. So if somebody wanted to buy like a case of it and have it at their house, they could do that as well from the site.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, cool. All right. And what do you feel like, Frank? What are you the most proud of in today? Like here we are, wrapping up March 2022, which is so crazy to me. What are you the most proud of in present time with this product?
To see people passionate about the brand themselves. So like, especially kind of specifically speaking about the motocross community, the motorcycles, dirt bikes. I mean, people are messaging me and asking me for the graphics, to put the graphics on their bikes, and if they're not paid, they're just, they love our brand, they love what we do, they love that I race motocross, they love that I pulled 4 whole shots this last weekend in the vet class. Whatever it is, they want to represent our brand as unpaid ambassadors, and so that to me really speaks volumes.
Absolutely. Okay. And so that's awesome for a present time. What are you excited about for the future? And I know you're personally developed, which is awesome. I do want to talk about that next, but what are you excited about for 23 and 24 for the next couple of years? What are you excited about for the future and the projections of your company?
um I don't want to get into like a lot of, I guess, specifics or details, but like I was talking about the Zoom calls I was on. So I just got approached with a deal to be presented or pitched to, like a chain of convenience stores in Florida. There's 1,100 stores in this chain.
Wow.
um the thought of just having our product in there, so even if 1,100 stores bought 1 case a month, which typically a convenience store will go through maybe 3 to 5 cases a month, but say 1,000 stores, a case a month, that's 1,000 cases every month of product.
Mm.
Going from starting this basically in the basement of, it had to be like a 900 square foot home, after my divorce and stuff. Just me and my kids. I was a single dad. I had my 2 teenagers full time, trying to run a business and start a brand and all this stuff. To have the opportunity to do that, and so for me, I see that's just one chain of convenience stores in one state. I mean, crap. Just imagine if we got 10 states with that many stores, or 10 chains in
Hmm.
one state. So it really starts to open up my mind to the opportunities that this is real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. That's incredible. Okay, cool. I love it, man. And I believe, honestly, this is not, I'm not filling you with a bunch of bullshit right now. I'm telling you, like, I I believe that you have what it takes. And I'm not speaking, I've never tasted the coffee, so I'm not strictly endorsing the coffee, although I do believe that the people that I run around with that hang out with you or that drink your product, they're not bullcrap people either. So I know that you run with good people, but I just believe, like, I can tell that your intentions are good, your character is good. I think that your future is going to be really, really bright with this. And I can tell that your desire and your goal is to really grow this. It's awesome that you do paintless dent repair. It's awesome that you own your business with that and that you have a career, quote unquote. But it's also awesome that you have an entrepreneurship mindset that goes so much further than just paintless dent repair, which we need. So certainly not to discredit a day-to-day business, right? But it's awesome that you have desires to go bigger and greater and further. So on that note, let me ask you this as we wrap up a little bit. You talked about network marketing, and you've talked about some books. So pardon me. So what like in network marketing, and I don't want to put a lot of energy into that area, but what was it about that industry that kind of fueled you? What kind of things fired you up? And what I mean specifically is something in that, because for me, I can answer the same question,
Mhm.
but something in that genre, if you will, must have also given you like some really good um desires also to like get really into books and get really into growth. Like, it's giving
Mhm.
you a growth mindset, right? So was there something specific or a particular area that really was like, ooh, I dig this?
Yeah, so that goes back to March of 2013, and that's when I accepted Christ in my life. And I knew, and then later understood just how the Bible says nothing can exist in a vacuum, and science says nothing can exist in nature in a vacuum. So it has to be filled with something. So it was either like on that Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember what day it was, that I accepted Christ in my life, and I just immediately knew that I needed to find mentorship. And so there were some family friends of ours that my dad worked for in the 70s. They were all successful, and I looked at the results of their family unit was strong. They were all financially sound, doing really well. and just so many areas of their life. And so I just called them and just said, this is on a Sunday when I accepted Christ in my life, Saturday or Sunday. And on a Wednesday, I called them, and they happen to um, make millions in network marketing. And so once I called them, and they said, "Man, I'm so glad to hear from you, and so glad that you accepted Christ in your life. When would you like to sit down?" And well, the network marketing business that they were in at that time was one that was all around faith and family finances. So it was all about the literature and the books and growing. So when I saw that, I knew that was my opportunity. That there was no denying that all that was already in existence. It was already there. It was just waiting for me to be open. So I went all in. I mean, I just read probably for almost 10 years now, just book after book after book, and the same book several times, different. So I would find out one pain point in my life or one area, and I would say, "Hey, this sucks in my life. What book do I need to read?" And they would tell me. So then I would go read the book. And so in that taught me a couple things, that if you have somebody that just wants to tell you how to do stuff, well, then that's just a pride thing, and their ego wants the self-importance. A real true mentor will ask you the questions to find out what the problem is, and then offer a suggestion of a source that's outside themselves to go find that help, and go find that book and get your own personal meaning of it, and then come back and have a conversation about what you learned from there and how to move on to the next step of growth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Solution oriented,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what books do you love? Let me scale that question a little bit differently. What books do you feel like over the last, let's say, 5 years have impacted you the most? Let's pick three.
So How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's an old standard. It's really good. And as I've gone through the journey, I find myself referring a book called How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling quite a bit. And then I think Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill was a really outstanding book, in just really simple, understandable terms. I want to have a fourth one if I can.
Yeah.
It was Don Miguel Ruiz.
Four Love Languages.
No, not the Four Love Languages. Oh my God, I just lost it. I can look it up on my phone here.
Yeah, look it up real quick.
But that one was really, because I use that process with my kids quite a bit. Out of that one, let's see, Don Miguel Ruiz. Looking on the old Google here, the Four Agreements. That's what it is.
What did I say? Love languages?
Yeah, the Four Love Languages. Yeah,
I meant the Four Agreements. Best book ever. Yeah, Four Agreements. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, both of those are really good. But the Four Agreements, it kind of, especially if you attach that to Outwitting the Devil, it kind of helps you understand how your mind processes, and it goes through that phrase that I say, "Whose thinking are you thinking?" and understanding that we don't operate generally from our true spiritual selves. We have, whether the Bible will say sins of the Father or sins of the Son, all this stuff is energetically programmed and passed to us, to where we're not even aware of why we say what we say or what we do, because it's just what everybody else did before us. So the thing I use with my kids out of the Four Agreements, I call it iPad, because the Four Agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, and do your best. And so, like with my kids, growing up, I would say, if they would come to me mad or whatever, and I'm like, iPad, where is this laying at? Were you talking good to yourself, or talking good to others or about others? Did you take this personally? Did you make an assumption? Did you do your best? So it's a really good teaching tool for the kids.
That's great. I That is really great. I should definitely implement some more of that with my son, who I feel like is pretty well personally developed, but just because he's been around me forever. But I think that's a really good, because that book, I mean, that's next to the Bible. That's my favorite book. And I haven't read the Bible. So just full disclaimer, I have not read the Bible all the way through, but I do feel like that's the book of books. Right.
Right.
But the Four Agreements is the book that's impacted me the most. I've read it 8 times. And every time I read it, it's not a big hard read either. It's an easy read, but I feel like every single time, I remember the first time I read it, I feel like it was in a foreign language. And the more and more that I read it, the more it makes sense. And it's like every time I read it, I hear something so different than the last time. So it's one that I always recommend to people as well, because it is such a powerful book for anybody, any age, any level of life, any walk of life, because those 4 agreements truly are potentially life changers, truly life changers. So that's awesome. And Outwitting the Devil, I need to read that again. I've only read it once, and it was in my very beginning of network marketing. So back in 2016, maybe early 17. And I read the audio version. And it's certainly, I've never read it, the hard copy of it, but I will say the audio version's a little bit creepy, just because like it's a heavy book. It's powerful, and then hearing the words of it are pretty crazy as well. So yeah, those are really good. What's the last book you read, or maybe what are you reading right now?
Right now I'm reading Man Up by Bedros Keuilian. So
Okay.
he's the guy that started Fit Body Boot Camp.
Really?
Yeah. That's it's a pretty solid book, really. And it was just another step in the networking process. Like I said, I'm intentional with who I network and so on with. Uh, and I see his results in life, so I want to grab some of his thinking for myself and apply it to myself, my life. And so that's one. Man Up. And like I said, that book Dollars Want Me, that was a really good short read. Maybe you spend about an hour reading. It's not very many pages to it as well.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I will certainly check those out, and I'll list those as well, some links, so that if people want to check them out, for sure. So, man, what's happening for you soon? I know you talked about you're going to be in Oklahoma for some dirt bike racing this weekend. Are your kids racing? Are you going to promote your product or race, or what?
Yeah, all the above. So my fiance and I are going, and then my daughter's coming down to race. My son, he has other engagements that he's going to this weekend, so he's not coming with us. But Rodney down there at the OMC, the Oklahoma Motorsports Complex, he's a big advocate of our brand. He loves having us down there.
Nice.
We love being there. So we're going to go down and do the vendor thing, sell our product. We're going to race as well. It's just part of this. It's just a mantra that I repeat over and over. It's to show up, find friends that want to do cool shit, and get shit done.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other stuff will just take care of itself along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. That's awesome, man. Frank, it's been a joy getting to visit with you and hear some of your story and what you've got going on and what you've had going on. I'm super excited for what the future holds for you, for sure, and with your brand. And for those of you guys that are interested, and for you big time coffee lovers, man, go check out Get Shit Done Coffee for sure. And as I say all the time with any of the guests, man, go check out the social media as well. I think what you'll find with Frank's social media is that I think you'll be inspired if you guys follow along. I mean, there's funny stuff too, but I think you'll find some inspiration as well, and not just like rah sad stuff. But I think that, I mean, you do, like, you're a business builder, man, and I admire you and respect that as well. So you guys go check him out, give him a follow. And then check out the coffee if you're coffee drinkers, for sure. So until next time, for sure, you guys make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all the things. If you don't mind, if you like this, make sure you review it. And then, like I said, go follow Frank everywhere that you can. And we appreciate you guys being on the Chazway podcast, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks again, Frank. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Chaz. It's been my honor.